Welcome to the DesignDash Podcast, your guide to designing a life you love. Join us as we explore the keys to living the life you want without compromise. Welcome to the DesignDash Podcast, your guide to designing a life that you love. My name is Melissa Grove, and before we start, we want to thank our good friends at Monogram Appliances. We always do. They're great supporters here at the podcast, and they've been great friends of ours for years and years and years with Laura U Design Collective, our design firm. So we absolutely love their team. We love their product, and we love that they're our sponsor. Thank you, Monogram.
Thank you, Monogram. I'm Laura Umansky, and welcome to DesignDash Podcast. Today, we don't have a guest. It's me and Melissa, so you have the two of us. And we thought we'd talk about something that's been really top of mind for us lately, and that is really boundary setting, but alongside hybrid work environments. So at Laura U Design Collective, we are a hybrid work environment. And what that means for us is that we are in the studio some hours a week, depending on what your role is. It may be you're there every single day. It may be that you're there half a day, a couple days a week, or not at all. Like me, I live in Aspen, Colorado, so I am not in the Houston studio every day. So hybrid. So we are working from home, we're working from the studio, we're kind of all over the place. And so today we're going to talk about how has that worked, what spurred that decision, and then how do we set boundaries with work and clients around this hybrid environment. So Melissa, I'd love to hear, I guess you were there in the thick of it with me when we went hybrid. So maybe walk us through the thought process around that.
Well, we were kind of forced into it, right? With COVID. I'll never forget, we closed the office. I think it was March 15th or something like that. And I had it marked on my calendar. Okay, well, we'll be back in 2 weeks. And of course, I didn't really see my office for at least like a good 4 to 6 months. And then, never again after that, really. But I think that, yes, we were forced to do it. And so there were some challenges, I think, and some concerns. I think a big one was just the collaboration factor, being a design firm and being so creative and understanding that working together really requires like being tactile and seeing things together and talking together and being in the same room. And I think that we were really concerned that that could be like a barrier to creativity. And then also just, productivity, like how productive can you be? Because not only are we moving from like fully in the office to home, but we were dealing with a global pandemic at the same time and just this constant barrage of bad news and uncertainty. Nobody knew what was going to happen next. And then, of course, I think that leads into my other concern, which was motivation.
Right.
Like how motivated can you be when everything was like the world was on fire? And of course, now, we've been hybrid and working from home now for 4 years, I guess.
4 years. Yeah. Crazy. A little more than.
Yeah. And none of those, I don't think any of those concerns really came to, I don't think that they ever came to fruition. Like everybody was actually working harder, I think, because we were just so afraid that if we didn't, everything would fall apart, maybe.
Well, that and we were so damn busy. I think that
too.
An outcome of the pandemic for us was that we got so busy being in interior design for residential, which in March of 2020, that was like not even something that occurred to me could happen. We were more worried about everything falling to pieces, not completely like going bonkers and having to keep up with it, and our business growing by double, which was great and terrible at the same time. But I think I had the exact same concerns, obviously, like we talked about it at the time, and we still continue to talk about that. And it's mostly like, are people going to work as hard in a hybrid environment as they would if they were in studio? And for us, I think the answer is absolutely yes. They did, and they still do. And I think that's for a couple of reasons. One, we were already very much like a very collaborative, communicative adult culture before COVID happened. And I think a lot of our platforms and communication styles were already set up to go hybrid or remote quickly. But also we're such a team-based firm. Most design firms are, but we're a tight-knit team. We're not a huge team. There's 10, 15 of us, but we're so tight knit that I think everybody just wanted to support each other. And so we worked really hard because of that. So I think hybrid works well for us because we rely on each other and we can rely on each other.
Do you see any problems with hybrid now? I mean, now that we've been doing it for 4 years, is there something that you're just like, okay, well, this is still a struggle, or maybe it's a new struggle?
I mean, for me, I want to get the hell out of my house. So I love being in the Houston studio, which I go once a month to the Houston studio because I can be there. And when I'm in Houston, I'm in the studio because I'm only there once a month. So I want to be in studio, and I love seeing people, and I like not being in my house. So it's great. I think you're right though, when you talked about collaboration, like the fallout of actually collaboration as a design team, as a creative firm, I think that is still a struggle. I think the team works so well together when they are next to each other. And especially like we talked in another podcast about generations collaborating and working together. And I think that falls apart some when you're not together physically and on a regular basis, because I think there's so much to be learned in both directions from the managers and from the more green team. So yeah, I do think learning and collaboration it is detrimental to not be in the studio as often. But I also think being in the studio like 3 days a week is plenty.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's why I don't really have any challenges that are still persisting, I guess, because I get to go to the office a couple of days a week, sometimes every day if I absolutely need to, sometimes not at all if I need to be really productive at home. And I found that to be just an ideal work environment, like the best scenario possible.
And I think for women, especially, having a hybrid work environment gives us the flexibility that we need for our personal lives, especially like women that are midlife, maybe not beginning of your career, because at the beginning you want to be physically somewhere. I think at least I did, learning from others and seeing how things work. Mid-career, and maybe I'm giving myself too much credit, but I feel like I know how stuff works. Like I don't need to be there 24/7, and I have things I need to do outside of those normal 9 to 5 business hours. And being hybrid gives me that flexibility.
Yeah. I mean, I had to take Magnolia to the doctor yesterday and again this morning to make sure that she was okay to go into school. And so I ended up taking her to school right after our first meeting this morning instead of when I usually do. And I definitely would not have been able to do that if I had to be in the office.
Yeah. I mean, and who wants that kind of it? I think it's trust for me, big time trust. And I feel like for the rest of the team too, we trust that we're doing our jobs. We trust that we're supporting our team, we're supporting our clients and their projects. And that means no one's standing there watching you over your shoulder, seeing what you're doing at every minute of every day. I think that just makes for a miserable work experience.
Yeah. Well, and I remember when we first went hybrid, we had all hands meetings every morning. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And we were meeting every day for like 30 minutes.
Check-in.
And eventually we just stopped because we were like, okay, we're doing what we need to be doing. Like it turned into more of just like, hey, are you doing what you need to be doing? Rather than, hey, let's check in and make sure that
tell me what you're doing. Exactly.
And mutual goals. And so like now we've gotten to, I mean, we still have all hands meetings, of course. But not every morning. And I think so much of that was just understanding that we can trust each other. We can rely on each other, that we are still being productive despite working from home.
But I think that brings up a really important point. Like we did have the morning check-ins every single day. And so it was that consistency, the cadence of our meetings that kept us accountable and in communication, even though we were fully remote. Now that we're hybrid, we still have our set check-ins. We have our weekly team meetings. So even if you're in the studio, you're still meeting. If you're remote, you're Zooming in or, whatever platform you use, but we have that set cadence. So there is consistency. We all know what to expect. And I think that helps support the hybrid environment.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
So one bad thing about hybrid or remote work is that I'm on 24/7. All of my platforms are on my phone. I've got Basecamp, I have Zoom, I'm texting, we have Dialpad, which is our company phone system. So anyone can reach me at any time, all the time, 24/7. And I find myself checking that stuff all the damn time, even when I'm on vacation. So boundaries. We have different boundaries. like different preferences for boundaries, which everyone does. And, whatever one way is not the wrong way. And I'd like to know from you, being hybrid and remote, how do you set your boundaries? Like, how do you form your thoughts around that?
Well, I had worked for a 100% distributed company before, and being constantly available was kind of one of the reasons why I got back into an office environment. So then when I was initially pushed back into working from home during COVID, I freaked out because that was what I hated. I hated being constantly available, having to feel like I was on, like presenting all the time, just like there was no separation between work and personal life. I mean, obviously that has gotten a lot better over time, but I have to set those kinds of boundaries because I end up becoming kind of a workaholic to the extent of like, I'm shushing my children because I'm checking an email, which I think is gross. Like, and I do that, you may not. And I mean, I think some people don't do that. But so I have to set that boundary. Now, does that mean that like yesterday I wasn't working at 9 p.m.? No, I had to finish something, but I try to make sure that it's at a time when like the kids are asleep. Like Luke wakes up really, really early, so he's probably asleep too. Like I just try to make sure that I'm carving that time out. I guess I just always feel like when I'm always available work-wise, I kind of tune out everything else for some reason. I feel like, oh, somebody needs me, and I love being needed. So I'm like, oh yeah, of course, like reach out to me. I can help you out. But sometimes I need to be there just for myself. And so I try to put, now, am I great with those boundaries? No. But I do try not to be available at all times.
That thought just struck me. I want to feel needed.
Yeah.
I like feeling needed. Oh my God. Is that why I'm such a workaholic?
I do too. I went to a talk last week and it was all about work-life balance. And I was like, oh, I'm really interested to see how these women, all C-suite entrepreneurs, how are they creating this work-life balance for themselves? Or they called it work-life fusion, actually, like using them together.
The word balance is out.
There's no difference, right? And what I found so interesting and kind of disappointing, if I can be honest, was that none of them had boundaries. Like they were bringing their kids into Zoom meetings and like talking about how great that is. And it can be. I think that's really nice to be vulnerable and open and accepting of those kinds of things. But the fact that
that's a result of COVID, when kids were just like behind you in every moment.
Right. Or like, you know what, I just being constantly on. And I really want to hear from an entrepreneur who isn't constantly on. I don't know of anybody.
Okay. Is that pointed at me? Am I just constantly on?
Well, no, but like anybody. And I mean, that was the thing. Like I'm trying to be more off than I am. But I don't know anybody who's successful, like needs urgency, believes in urgency, or owns their own business that isn't constantly on. And we've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs here that are constantly on.
I know, but is that okay? Like, can we give ourselves permission?
I mean, I don't want to be. I think
you don't want to be. That's okay.
I want to be the first entrepreneur who doesn't do that. Or one of the few. I think that's amazing.
And so you don't want to be on all the time. So tell me, like, top 3 ways that you shut down. How do you do it? I want to know because I don't shut down, and I'll talk about that.
So I take my phone and I put it in a completely different place because
I have all pouches that Instagram keeps trying to get me to buy. That's like, you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't know what that is, but I'm interested.
I'm going to get you one. It's a little pouch. You put your phone in there and no one can find you.
No, I just put it in the bedroom and then I stay on the sofa. Now, this is only something that I've been doing very recently because so my husband, he's not an entrepreneur and he's very much against working like at 9 p.m. or working after hours, but he works for the government and he's also in mental health. So he's very much against those kinds of things.
Yeah, so that's a very different place to be.
Right. I've only started to do this recently, but I've realized I'm very addicted to my phone. I think just working in marketing and social media, like I'm in that thing like constantly. So I have to put it in a completely different place. I shut down everything. I make every dinner and like that's the time that I do it. Luke and I trade off like bedtime, but I'm always here for bedtime unless I'm doing like a networking event, which, maybe 3 times a month. But I think that like I schedule myself at work, right? I schedule all my meetings. I prioritize that, but I realized I wasn't scheduling and prioritizing time out. That wasn't that. So like, I have to schedule that time when I'm making dinner. I schedule that time when we have bedtime and have a routine around it. So I feel like I'm making it a priority. And then I don't focus on anything else during that time.
That sounds lovely. I love that. I mean, I will put my phone away. I'll put it,
Yeah.
and not away. I will put it on my nightstand and just walk away. And that works very well as long as my husband is home and he can find me. Because otherwise, I guarantee he's looking for me and my phone is blowing up and it's on my nightstand.
Definitely.
And I will tell you what, he will find me anyway because he will drop into the Alexa on my wall in my kitchen and find me, and he does it.
For you guys who are listening, I don't know if you realize, but Michael is very addicted to Laura. Like, he will call her all the time.
He's addicted to communication in general. He's addicted to his phone. Talk about workaholic with zero boundaries. But also, he's a tech entrepreneur. So that is just a recipe for disaster.
He can't help it.
Yeah, he's too far gone. We can't save him. But like, I could put my phone away, or this sounds terrible. I was going to say I can go for a hike without it. That's bullshit. Because even on a hike, I'm like coming up with business ideas and podcast topics. And, ooh, I loved listening to this person. We should invite them to be a guest. Or what about this article? And I'm writing this all down on my phone, and I've definitely tripped a few times and I've embarrassed myself because I'm walking and like writing down ideas. I don't have any boundaries.
Yeah. But you're okay with it.
I took a client call this weekend. What the hell am I doing?
But if you're okay with it, I think that's fine. Like, I feel bad when I do it.
Okay. I don't feel bad. I'm okay with it. I probably should feel bad. That's my own mental block. But no, I don't feel bad. I do feel bad if I'm like, if I go to dinner with friends or with my husband or with my kids, phone's away. Like, there's no way I'm going to go, or at the dinner time at home, there are no phones. Like, do not bring all of us, do not bring your phones to the table. I've
been so bad about that. And then of course I set a terrible example for Magnolia, but that's why I have to put it away now. Cause I'm just like, it's like
no phones. Like, put your iPad away, put your phones away. Like, all of you just stop. And especially Michael, that is very hard for him. I swear he like breaks out in sweats when he can't have his phone. But yeah, I think I need to take a hard look at myself and say, what boundaries do I need to draw to make myself feel better? I don't know what those are right now. I'm going to give that some thought.
I mean, for me, it's my anxiety. That kind of stuff just fuels my anxiety. So I've just had to like completely, like working when I feel like I shouldn't be.
Oh,
it really.
See, I'm the opposite. If I'm not working and I'm relaxing, I'm like, what the hell am I doing with my life?
Oh,
that's a lie though. I will read. I will lay down and read and just like, everyone leave me alone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was working in an agency environment, and then, which is, 60, 70 hour weeks. It was terrible. But like, I enjoyed it because I like to work. Right. But Magnolia came home and she was in preschool, I think at the time, or kindergarten. And she had drawn something in school, and it was like her trying to get my attention while I was at my desk at home.
Oh my God.
And that broke my heart. And that was really the impetus for just like, okay, I need to work outside of this distributed environment, because when I'm at home, it's hard for me to separate. So I had to have that kind of like come to Jesus sort of moment for me to transition away from it.
Yeah. It's like when at school, they ask your child like, hey, what does your mom love? And they're like, my mom loves to drink a ton of wine. And you're like, oh crap. Seriously? Or like, my mom loves to go on business trips. Okay. I may need to reevaluate here.
It's heartbreaking.
Nothing like a kid to really like bring you back to reality. I think some things we've done around the office just to help set boundaries for our team, because some are really, really good about it. And they will tell you straight up, like they are setting boundaries, and some just aren't. But one thing we did, just so clients and vendors and work relationships don't have their cell phone numbers, we have a system called DialPad, so that they can have all their messages and calls within one system, and it doesn't touch their personal life. So I think that's been nice to separate that out. That's just like one small, like very small thing that we've done. I think also just like we take the 2 weeks off at the holidays and we shut down. So no one's looking for us.
That's a huge, huge help. I look forward to that at the end of every year.
The only time I will stop working is if there is no one else in the office. So that 2 weeks is amazing. We do half days Fridays. I don't know that everybody's great about that. I think some people stay and use it as catch-up time.
Sometimes when I'm in the office, I'm just like, don't stay too late. Don't work too late.
I try to shut that down. I really love my Fridays. Got to tell you, that's like one of my favorite things.
Yeah, no, it's been good. Kids are at school. Like it's just me for just a couple of hours. I get so much done or nothing. Like I just do whatever I want to do. It's really nice.
So I've had other creative entrepreneurs ask me, and probably you have too, do you have in your contract like any language around boundary setting for your clients? My answer is no, we don't. But I think that we reinforce it from the first conversation that we have with them about their project, and that we don't meet with, if they need to meet outside of business hours, I'll try to accommodate it within reason, but we don't do it often because we all have personal lives and we have set business hours. And so that means if someone wants to meet on a Saturday, it's going to be a hard no.
Yeah. And we've said no to potential clients. I mean, even very recently, because
and really good clients too, which I'm like, God. And then I regret, and then I'm like, oh, should we have said no? But we have to protect that time. I really think that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would never ask my team to do that.
Yeah. But I mean, also when it comes to contracts, we're always trying to like strip it down, cut things down.
Already, just make our contract is 20 pages.
And it's already pretty big. I mean, I want to ask those people who do put those kind of boundaries in their contracts if it ever becomes an issue. Because I think I've only ever heard it be a positive thing, but I know I mean, their clients are coming from in, out, and wherever. Like they all have different opinions. I'm sure something has been.
See, if I was hiking right now and listening to this podcast, I'd be making a note like, do a poll on LinkedIn to see if people put boundaries in their contracts.
Let's do it. Because I know some people have like 40-page contracts and like.
I just don't think, like, if a client is going to push your boundaries that hard that it has to be in a contract, that's probably a red flag and probably not the client for you.
Yeah.
That's my short answer. And that's also because I don't want to adjust our contract ever again. So,
right.
I don't know. I think I've not really had to have that conversation with clients. Like most of them, if they text or email over the weekend, they don't expect that I'm going to give them an answer. I have in the past had some clients that they knew I'm on vacation and they are just having a meltdown over something not that big of a deal, like a pillow trim or something that maybe we didn't hear them the first time and it's the wrong color and they're freaking out and need me to call them immediately while I'm on vacation. And I do.
Yeah.
I do. I call them.
What is your work responsibilities like when you're on vacation? Like, what are you willing to do and where do you draw the line?
Depends on how long I'm on vacation. So if it's for a long weekend, I'm checked out. I'm done. Like 4 days. If I'm going somewhere for a couple weeks, I'm probably working just because I like that. Like I like to go away and I'll respond. I'm probably not sitting in on meetings, like set meetings, but I'll respond to issues or answer questions. But I'm probably doing like bigger vision planning strategy work. Because I can think and imagine and be creative when I'm away from home and I'm in a new setting. So that's something I look forward to. Like we're going to Mallorca this summer and we're busy. We have a lot going on and I'm almost to the point where like I should cancel. Then I'm like,
oh my gosh,
I'm not doing that
every summer.
God, do I? But then I go like, I'm going to go to Mallorca for a week. And I'm going to be able to work. Like I can actually do some really good creative work. And I'm looking forward to that. And I'm going to schedule that time. Like if I'm sitting by the pool, I'm happy to sit there and strategize. Like that makes me, I'm inspired by doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Answering a client call. No.
Right.
I love my clients. Don't get me wrong. That sounds terrible. Yeah. But if I'm on the beach, well, that's a lie. I totally went to Mexico and had some client calls. When was that? February, I think. But they were short and they were planned and it was fine. God, I have no boundaries.
That was kind of you knew you were going to work on that trip though. So that may be
I did. That is true. Yep. If I'm going to really check out, I will.
Yeah.
What about you? You don't work on vacation, period.
No, I don't. But it really does depend on the duration. So like I tend to take, and again, this is feeding my anxiety. I tend to take shorter vacations. So then like I'm back and I can work on it. Cause if I'm gone for 4 days or like when I went to Luke and I went camping, right? And like I had no service. There was no answering.
Oh,
Like,
you mean the music festival where everybody like tripped out in the woods?
So like, I mean, I had no service for 4 or 5 days. Like there was no working. But we left like Thursday afternoon. I worked Thursday morning, and checked everything. And then I came back Monday night, and immediately checked everything. Like if you can't figure something out the Friday afternoon, since we take half day Fridays, and that day, Monday, we have bigger issues, I think.
And if you wait long enough, they're going to figure it out on their own.
Right. But when it's a week, like so here's one thing, like I don't deal with clients like you do. So I don't have to check my email as much, but I will check Basecamp. Like I'll check our project management system. Cause if somebody on the team absolutely needs me, then like, I want to make sure that I'm there for them. So I'll check Basecamp. I have my notifications on my phone. So like if they need a quick answer, I'll have to like hide away from Luke so he doesn't know I'm doing it. And then,
oh my God, he's putting pressure on you. He's guilting you.
He is, but he's always like, you know why you do it? Because he knows that I'm an anxious person. So he's like, you're feeding your anxiety because you're thinking like, if I don't address this, it's going to make me anxious. Like I need to handle it. And he's like, no, you don't. Like you need to be okay with.
But then does it just simmer in the back of your head and you're just like, oh, I mean,
I've been working on it. Like that's the thing. I've been working on just being okay with not being 100% available all the time.
That's great. I'm not working on that because my husband's the opposite. He's going to be like, why aren't you working right now? Why are you sitting by a pool and relaxing? What do you think this is, a vacation?
Well, I had to have some compromise or I may not be married anymore. So I had to really work on it. He hates it.
I think you're making good decisions.
Yeah.
I like Luke. Good decisions.
I like my husband. I want to make sure we stay married. So if that means not taking a phone call, I'll make it happen.
So if you could do it over again, not do it over again because we didn't have a choice. It was COVID. But would you have gone back full time to the office instead of staying hybrid?
No.
Okay. So this is the right choice. We were forced into it.
I don't know. I'm really curious to see other people who, once the pandemic was over, they're like, okay, I'm going to go back to the office full time, especially for entrepreneurs and especially for interior designers who are kind of in and out. You're on site. You're doing other things. You want to travel. Like you're an entrepreneur to make your own schedule, right? And I doubt that you did it because you want to be in the office every single day.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So I'm really interested to hear from other people. But for us, no, I'm glad we've maintained this.
I think we were talking about it in the first place, and then COVID happened.
Right. That's true. You're just like, how can we like work less, but still like, how can we be so involved, but still get done what we need to get done?
How about just a massive change across the entire globe? Perfect.
That's all it took.
That's all it took. No, but I've definitely talked to other firm owners that I'm friends with, and it's a mixed bag. But I know some are very adamant that they went back to the studio as quickly as possible, and their entire team did too.
Really? And they like that.
They look at me like I'm crazy that we're still hybrid. But it's worked for us so far. And I want to keep doing what we can to continue to have it work. So I think we are.
Yeah. And I think the team really loves it too. I mean, it's just a more adult environment now also. Like I don't know if this is like a consequence or like something else from it, but because you have to be so self-sufficient and accountable, like we've been left with a team that can really handle some stuff.
Yeah. And I think it really showed the core team who those people are. Mm-hmm. And I think it showed who really does live our core values, which one of them are like proactive problem solving, and another one is lifelong learning. And I think those are big indicators of who can work hybrid.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, let's wrap this up. So this has been a really good conversation about hybrid work environments and boundary setting, which Melissa's working on. And
I'm working on it.
I have no intention of working on it. So would love to hear your thoughts. So if you enjoyed this episode, please like and follow and even sign up for those notifications. It'll tell you when we release a new episode. And thanks for listening to DesignDash Podcast.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you for listening. Make sure to check out our next podcast coming live next week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, you can find us and more wonderful stories like these on DesignDash.com. And make sure to follow us at DesignDasher on Instagram and TikTok. Till next time.